Welcome to Cars on Call. It's been a couple of weeks and we are back. Sans Adams, he is away, but we have the great trauma surgeon, Dr. Stephan Moran, newly retired from the military.
Yeah, as I say, down here in Arley, I just retired and found out today officially that I will be retired as of effective date August 1. Yes, that was 5 weeks ago. Sometimes our government can be a little bit slow, but they had a glitch in the matrix. Two computer systems wouldn't talk to each other, but I am officially retired. Now I just need to wait on my pay and benefits. But hey, growing out a little beard, gonna let the hair go long.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
funny. Some people kind of go crazy with the hair after they retire because, of course, there's regulations that govern your hair. And
Well,
yeah, some people really go crazy.
it's all about, I've been told what to do, how to cut my hair and facial hair for the last, for 20 years of my life being in the military. Now that I don't have that, it's like, yeah, I'm going to grow a beard. But I also got ski season coming up. So I like to have a full beard for snow ski season.
Yeah, absolutely. It's cold outside. You get that wind.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're all thrilled to get to see you soon with a man bun.
It doesn't grow that fast, but yeah, yeah, we'll see. We'll just give it some time.
All right, we're going to talk about 997 Porsche 911. We're going to talk about trauma surgeon safety. We are the only car podcast that has a trauma surgeon that can discuss. By the way, if people have not listened to the last episode, which went into a deep dive into the Sun Valley Porsche 911 Turbo S crash, 205 miles an hour, both passengers in the car survived. Watch that because it was a tour de force by Stephan. Stephan, amazing how you broke down, the skids, whatever they call the skid marks on the road, the dents in the bushes made by the car, and also the car itself, which had the doors blown off, which is kind of funny. He's like, "Oh, blowing someone's doors off." Well, you crash a
Yeah.
911 at 200 miles an hour, you're going to get your doors blown off.
Oh, absolutely. The twisting of the frame, the door latches are just not going to hold. They're coming off. So
Yeah,
it's too much,
unbelievable.
not enough torsional rigidity in a cabriolet. And I would even say I'd be hard pressed to keep the doors on a coupe doing what they did, you know? That's why people have roll cages.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about, there was an interesting article. A very good friend of mine, Tom Snow, sent this. This is the 50 most underappreciated cars of the last 60 years. And I thought it was an interesting article. We're going to break that down. We're going to go into what we think are the fit, or out of that list, the ones that are truly underappreciated. Because some of the, let's face it, some of the cars on the list were kind of stupid.
Yeah.
E250,
Underappreciated and something and will be good buys for the future as well. It's the kind of way I look at it.
that's a good point. And then we're going to talk about cars now that in 50 or 60 years will be appreciated more than they are now, or at least as much as they are now. And we may have a correspondent at the end if we have time. So, without further ado, I want to talk 997 because I just bought one. I don't need another car, but next year, my wife and I are going to drive from Atlanta, where my middle son Patrick lives, and then we're going to go up the Eastern Seaboard to see friends. And there's a bunch of stops we're going to make, and we're going to end up in Manchester by the Sea, Massachusetts, where my sister and her family live, and then we're going to fly back. Well, I could rent a Camry or something. I didn't want to do that. Then I thought, well, I could ship my 911, and I thought it's probably $2,000, $2,500 each way. And then I thought, why don't I just buy a 997 and I can drive it the whole way and then sell it, and I'll sell it for exactly what I paid for it. So it'll be free. Plus, it'll be a much better car than a rented Camry or, God forbid, a rented Altima. So I was talking to my oldest son Carl about it, and he said, "I'll buy it." So I said, "All right." So now I will lose money because I'll give him a discount. But I've been looking at auction sites for 6 months trying to find the right 997. Nothing too fancy because, again, I want my
Hey,
son
Steve,
Carl.
let's back up for a minute. So,
Yeah,
for our listeners and stuff, I mean, I don't own a Porsche. I want to own a Porsche. I can't afford an air cooled Porsche. I would like an old SC, but in terms of the modern era Porsches, I have always gravitated towards the 997. And the 997 to me is kind of like the same body size as the in-cooled era before the Porsche 911 became a very large vehicle, especially now with the new ones. So to me, it's kind of like it looks like it's about the same size, a little bit bigger than the earlier Porsches, the air-cooled ones, but it's still a very manageable size for me as a 911. Whereas your new Porsche is a big car. This is still a very nice size proportion. For me, if I would like to have a 997.2, there were some issues with the .91, with the .1, which can be fixed. But if I were to buy a Porsche, it's either going to be the SC or a 997.2. And I know I'd much more appreciate a 997 over an SC.
Yeah.
So just
Um,
educate our listeners a little bit about, the Porsche numbering and kind of the size of the vehicles and everything.
I think the 997 is a sweet spot of modern Porsches, modern
I absolutely
911s.
agree.
And just for people who don't know, it was the first year was 2005 and the last year was 2012. The first water cooled 911 was a 996, and it came here in the 1999 model year. And there were a bunch of problems with that. One was, you go from air cooled, which is what you do, to water cooled. Probably you're going to have some problems, and they did have problems with the engines. But a bigger problem for me was they really, Porsche was in dire straits in the late 90s. Really throughout the 90s, they were in dire straits and they needed money. And it just cost them too much to make the last generation air cooled 911, which was the 993. It took them a reported 130 hours to build one. And that was beyond, you really had trouble breaking even. Well, they cut that down to the 996. It only took 40 hours to build it, and they cut back a lot. They actually had some retired Toyota engineers that formed a consulting company came in and said, "Here's how you save money." So they were really focused on saving money in the 996. As a result, the materials in the inside aren't very nice. It
And
looks
it's
a
got
lot
the
like,
fried egg headlights.
yes, which was
It's,
also a money
that's how,
saving thing.
a 996, it's got those very funky fried egg headlights, which everybody hates.
Everything from the doors forward was identical in the Boxster. So that was another cost cutting move. There was just a lot of problems and it just a lot of quality problems, and they haven't aged well. That's why they're so cheap to buy. 997, they fixed all that. Nicer interiors, got rid of the fried eggs headlights, made it much more of a traditional 911 looking car, and better engine, and just nicer, but nicer interior is a big thing. So this is a 2008. It's got 89,000 miles. But how I got it is interesting. I've been scouring ads and I just haven't found anything I really liked that seemed quite right, or the location wasn't good. It's like in the middle of Pennsylvania. How am I going to get there? How am I going to get inspected? And then I emailed Adams and I said, "Hey, can you touch base with Dick Barbour? Because Dick Barbour famously raced Le Mans and came in second in 1979 with Paul Newman. He buys and sells Porsches. So all of a sudden, he says, Adams says he has one. He's going to call you. So he called me and said, I just got this. It's a great car. One owner, not one owner car, but the last owner had it for 11 years. And he took really good care of it. I think you're going to like it. The price was right. He sent me the pictures. I just said, fine, I'll buy it just because I trust Dick Barbour. He's a great guy. My son Patrick picked it up. Dick Barbour's shop, in case you don't know, is north of Atlanta. And my son Patrick lives in Atlanta. He drove up, picked it up, loved it, and took it home. And if you scroll down, there it is in Patrick's parking garage, a secure, locked parking garage in his apartment complex. There's a lot more slots than there are people. So he parked it up at the top, and it's safe and nice. Adams actually was in town visiting his son, and he drove it, and he said it was great. He said he got a really good car. So that's my 997 story. I have two 911s, even though nobody needs even one.
I don't know. I need one. I love it. I think it's gorgeous. I love that Porsche Guards Red with the tan interior. The only thing that's a little bit funky to me, and I got up here as the interiors, is that I know the original owner paid extra to have that little centerpiece done in Porsche red. Me personally, I'd prefer that in leather, but small detail. The car looks gorgeous. It looks clean. I mean, it really looks really nice.
I would have never spec'd it this way, but I love it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'm thrilled to buy it. And again, that's the thing about 911s. You buy one today, it's not going to lose value. You can sell it tomorrow for pretty much what you paid for it. Maybe I may even be able to get a little bit more for it if my son doesn't want it. So there you go. All right.
Oh, you sell it to me at a big discount.
Yeah, it earned the eternal hatred of your wife, Ellen. But a poison your garage with another car.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to safety.
All right. So you sent me an interesting article. I used to subscribe to Automotive News, which is a fantastic magazine, but I'm paring down my subscriptions. But there's a great article about automatic emergency braking systems. And those of you who drive pretty much anything later than about 2019-20, your car most likely has this. And this is one of the advanced driver systems. And this is where with the car in front of you stops, especially at slow speeds, you don't see it. Your car automatically puts on the brakes. Or the newer systems, the better systems, see a pedestrian or a pedocyclist, and they will stop and put the brakes on. So as of 2024, about every car already has it as standard. It's going to be mandatory by NHTSA to be standard in 2029. Well, like we've talked about, technology is great until it isn't. And we've learned a lot about texting. I mean, I'm texting you. I just got a text us. So with uh, so and the thing that I said on this show over and over, that there is no role absolutely for beta testing of any advanced driver systems. There's no role for it. I mean, yeah, we all get beta tests on our phone. We get beta software on our computer, but out there on the highways, there's no role for this. So there's been a lot of lawsuits over what's called phantom braking. And this is where your vehicle thinks there's a car in front, and for no apparent reason, you're going down the highway, your car slams on the brakes on the highway or a two-lane, and then you end up getting rear-ended by somebody because your car is not supposed to be stopped. That is beta software failure. It's either a combination of the LiDAR or the cameras they have, but it's not working properly. But let's kind of talk about the automatic emergency braking system in general. What has it done, and what were the ideas behind it? Well, I can tell you, number one, this was insurance company driven. This is the 5 to 10 mile fender bender that cost everybody a fortune. It costs the insurance companies a fortune. It costs you a fortune because your rates go up. It's very expensive to repair these vehicles, especially if you hit hard enough that your airbags deploy, your vehicle could be totaled. So I really believe that this whole emergency braking system came about as a result of insurance companies trying to decrease their cost. That's okay. I'm cool with that. But let's go ahead and take that one step further, because I search and search and search, and out of all these lawsuits, I could not find a fatality as a result of phantom braking. Okay. Injuries, yes, injuries are no good, but no fatalities. But we got to talk about how many lives might it save? Well, if we're starting to talk about pedocyclists, pedestrians, and cyclists, that's where this software really could do good. But they say it's reduced vehicle rear end collisions by about 40%. They estimate that about 362 lives a year are saved because of emergency automatic braking. And for pedestrians, that's really where it's a big deal. It's about 30%, they think, in terms of decreasing injuries to pedestrians that are struck by vehicles. But the software still is at the point it's about 95% accurate for a vehicle, hence the 5% phantom braking. But it's only right now currently about 60 to 70% accurate for pedestrians. So in my mind, if you look at it in terms of injury producing, we need to really focus on improving the pedestrian aspect, especially since we know in this country, pedestrian deaths have just skyrocketed because of SUVs, large frontal areas, which I've talked about in the past. But once again, it's the financial winner here really is the insurance company. And it really is you too, because if you have a fender bender, you rear end somebody, your rates are going to go up, the cost to get the car fixed. So you really don't want to do that either. So back in 2019, it all started with Nissan that went rogue. Dad joke. Oh, dad joke. All right. So the Rogue, the Nissan Rogue, there were 14 crashes, 4 injuries, and there were complaints to NHTSA about this. And this is when NHTSA first really started looking at this. And I think it probably has to do, this was probably one of the first mainstream mid-priced vehicles that actually had this software. Because a lot of high-end vehicles had it. So now you've got a much larger population of smaller vehicles that are more affordable. Where are we today? Well, they're currently, NHTSA is investigating 3 million Hondas for 2,876 complaints. There's 93 injury accidents in there, 47 different crashes. GM has recalled 56,000 mid-sized pickups, only 3 with minor injuries. Mazda's recalled 10,000 vehicles. So what this all tells me is that this software is not always working properly, but when it doesn't work properly, we're not having fatalities. But what we are doing with this software implementation is markedly decreasing pedestrian fatalities and pedestrian injuries. So, I think it's one thing is the software. There's a lot of tweaking that needs to be done with it. And the big problem is recognition with LiDAR and cameras, if it's raining or not raining. But, in my experience, if you've got a co-pilot like my wife, and she actually ends up screaming stop about a half a second before the emergency active automatic braking kicks in. And, so it falls back to me. If you've got a co-pilot in your vehicle, let them be a co-pilot and appreciate them. But I think it's great software. But, I think the Nissan Rogue software, with the number of issues they had, that some of this was rolled out a little bit early. They hadn't done all the algorithms. And what we're really starting to find out is you really need to have cameras. You need to have LiDAR, because there's instances where a camera can see what's ahead. Then there's times when it can't, but the low intensity radar can see what's ahead. So I think it's great software, but there's issues with it.
Complicated software is complicated. And that's the problem. And here's what I'd like to see. And I've mentioned this before, Stephan, but I really feel strongly about this. Instead of having a complicated software system that can identify potential hazards in the road, coupled with a second complicated software system that does something to the car, brake it or steer it or something like that. But let's just say brake. How about this? How about you just have the first system and have LiDAR plus cameras plus whatever identify pedestrians at night or pedestrians at any time, or animals like deer that are about to run into the road or that could run, that are relatively close to the road, show them on the roadside and show pedestrians wherever they are, and cyclists and other cars, and have that, once it looks like it's going to be a threat, have that light up for me, maybe in a heads up display or in a screen that says, basically just shows people walking, and it just says pedestrian alert, maybe with a sound. And then I respond. Because so, it's way better than saying we're going to also have the car respond. I would love it if you had the first part without the second part.
So, in an airplane, I fly a lot, and in the airplane, I'm a passenger as a flight surgeon, but in the airplane, it will go altitude, 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 or it go retard, and that's the Airbus version saying that you slow down too much. So it's warning you
terrain.
Yeah.
Terrain.
So it's telling you, hey, dude, wake up, do something. Okay. So I do like that idea, Steve-0. That's a very good idea, that the system warns the driver and gives the driver a chance to take over. If the driver doesn't then take over, but the question would be, what would you have to do to interact with the system to override it?
I don't want it to override. I just want it to warn me, and then I take action.
Right.
I don't want it to do an action. I just want it to only warn me and give me the chance to do the action. I think that's much safer, and you won't have these phantom brakes. I was pulling into, I had an Audi press car. This is, again, not super recent. It was probably 6 years ago. I'm parallel parking and I hit something backing up. So I get out and I looked at the back of the car. There was nothing there. It was the emergency braking that detected something that wasn't there, and it stopped the car, and it scared the crap out of me. And it was a phantom brake. It was very annoying. So I'd also say this, and I think that just a word of caution. We talked about this before, and my son Patrick, who's a programmer, a very good one, has said, if you're good at tech, you work for a tech company. If you're not good at tech, you work for a car company. Well, he said, he just told me something that's related, but it is related to this. And it's a sign of there should be more humility in the car company world. He said, because GM and a couple other manufacturers have gone back to Apple and Android and said, listen, we said we don't want CarPlay in our cars. Now we want them. And what Patrick said was, what the manufacturers realized was it is much more difficult than they thought to take this interface and make it work in different cars, in different countries, in different locations, in different Wi-Fi's or whatever. All these variables, he said Apple and Android made it look easy. And he said all of a sudden the manufacturers went in and tried to do it and realized, holy crap, I can get it to work great in a Suburban, but I can't make it won't work great in a Traverse.
Right.
And he said the Apple engineers figured all that out and they just did a better job. How about some humility and maybe look at this and say, we can't do it by 2029.
Yep. Yep. But they could also easily have it so, as my mother-in-law has said, this car you bought screams at me all the time. That when the car starts screaming at the individual, if the individual doesn't respond after multiple impulses, then it takes over. And we have that technology in like the F-16 and the advanced fighters, whereas if the pilot blacks out, the airplane is asking for a response from a pilot who's blacked out in high G forces and hasn't, the airplane goes into auto recovery mode. So,
yes.
So there is, so it awaits the human interface. And if the human interface doesn't react appropriately, or you can say, just shut up, Alexa, or no, I got it. There's nothing there, but it'd be interesting to see how that would develop. Anyway, I know it's a long aside. We kind of get sidetracked there, but I think this is very interesting, the human interface, as we increase the amount of technology in vehicles towards autonomous driving. And eventually it'll be good enough that we don't need the human interface. But we're not there yet. We're just all beta testers.
Right. It's going to be great when it finally gets here. I envision something like a Joby vehicle that takes off and lands. You just sit there and it takes off and goes vertical through the air and takes you where you want to go. But that's, again, it's going to be great, but we're not there yet. And it's going to be a bumpy road before we get there. All right. There's an internet magazine called Inside Hook, and they had this article. It's like the top 5 most impressive people I know. One of them is a retired attorney named Tom Snow, lives in Tampa, Florida, and he sent me this. And boy, it's a really interesting article. Before we get into it, Stephan, I think this is either AI generated. The author is apparently Benjamin Hunting, like Goodwill Hunting. Okay, yeah, I guess that's real. And it just seemed AI generated. It seemed like, and it's called the 50 most underappreciated cars of all time. And it seemed like clickbait for males 50 years old and over. And here's why I say that.
I ate it up. I loved it. I was like, I want to see what they're
You're over 50.
Great. Yeah, exactly.
It's clickbait. Probably it's either AI generated and then human helped, or it's completely AI. But it's clickbait for us because we're over 50, and it takes you back. It's nostalgic, and also you get to kind of think about it. Oh yeah, no, yeah, I agree. No, I don't agree. So it's something that's certainly thought provoking, but the editor didn't know cars, or the AI didn't know cars, or the author didn't know cars, or all the above, because the Lincoln LSC was not an LSC. The Saab 900 Turbo was not a turbo. And there were other errors too, but those are the ones that really stood out. So what we decided to do, Stephan, together was take 5 of the list that we think we agree with and talk about those. And then I wrote down a bunch that I thought were stupid, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. But I know you're going to have comments, Dr. Moran, and I thought that was. And then we're going to talk about three cars that we think are good cars, but thinking 50, 60 years in a row are going to be really appreciated. Maybe they're a little underappreciated now, but they're going to be loved in 60 years. So three cars like that. So go ahead and give us your first one, Stephan. The list of 50 most underappreciated cars of all time. We pick five. Give us the first or your list of five.
All right, so we're gonna go. This is gonna be a lot of screen sharing here. So here's my number one. So I'm gonna go 5-1. My fifth pick, underappreciated car, and this is for those of you listening, 2002 Subaru Impreza WRX. And basically, this is a little four-door sedan that was kind of modeled after their rally history. So what is not to like about this car? You got all-wheel drive. You've got a very low center of gravity with a flat four putting out 227 horsepower. What a great car. I mean, I've never driven one. I've seen them on the road. They're always a little bit too outside of my comfort zone for what I want to see behind the wheel. But I have to imagine this is just a fantastic car, a blast to drive.
I think it's a great
4.
pick. The late 90s, the manufacturers started to realize that there was this slammed Civic era. Younger kids
Yes.
in the 90s wanted Japanese cars that they can tune and slam, coffee can exhausts, loud, rap music blaring. And they were just kind of obnoxious in a way that the muscle cars were obnoxious in the 60s. Young people going
Yes.
out, having fun, irritating their parents. And this was like a manufacturer said, hey, I want to sort of capture that. And these kids who had a slammed 1986 Civic in 1995, well, 5 years later, he's going to have a job. He's going to be more mature. I can sell him a new Subaru that has more power.
All right, let me go to number 4 here. I felt bad leaving this number 4, but here it is. The 1975 Volkswagen Scirocco. So the Scirocco, listeners, was basically a two-door coupe version of the Golf, or which is in the U.S. was called the Rabbit. In 1975, we in America did not get the GTI version of the Gen 1 Scirocco, unfortunately. But this is, I wish Adams was here because this is a Guargio, Guigiaro design. Regaro, yes, design. And I absolutely loved this car when it came out. I've always had a great affinity for two-door coupes. I just love two-door coupes. I owned the 1979 Honda Accord LX, a three-door, two-door coupe. That was my car. I got it over the Scirocco because the Scirocco was smaller than the Honda, and also I had to pay for all my own maintenance. And I just figured I knew the Honda Accord would be bulletproof. I was a little afraid of the Scirocco. Absolutely love this car. One sold recently, a Gen for like 40 grand on Bring a Trailer for a Gen 1 US. So I think that is a fantastic car looking down the road, and I think there's a real appeal to that one. All right, so
that was on my
4.
list. That was on my list, and here's what I wrote, Stephan.
Yeah.
I said overshadowed by the Golf GTI or the Rabbit GTI for us, but the Scirocco helped give Volkswagen an identity after the Beetle, and I think that's true. The Rabbit and the Scirocco together helped give Volkswagen a real identity and a real purpose in the United States and around the world after the Beetle faded away.
And here's another car. This is my next car that pick. This is a 1978 Gen 1 Mazda RX-7. And for the same reason, kind of like the Subaru, they put a high revving Wankel engine, which a Wankel is it's a basically triangular. It's a very interesting engine. It's a 3-cylinder triangular thing that whips around, but it's super compact, super low. So what you get is you get a lot of horsepower with a very low center of gravity again, and they matched this into a very, very super light sports car. And to me, the other thing about the RX-7, pop-up headlights. I mean, absolutely love pop-up headlights. And these cars, my brother had one. they were fantastic driving cars. I mean, these were a lot of bang for the buck. The Wankel had some, issues with oil burning. It's kind of hard to do the seals on them, but the Wankel engine produces a unbelievable amount of horsepower for the size of the motor. And I love this car. I think it's just a fantastic car.
I totally completely disagreed. And here's why, Stefan. I have driven this car just like you have, and I don't it is the smoothest engine I've ever driven. It's smoother than a BMW inline six. Absolutely smooth. It generates plenty of power, loves to rev. Oh my gosh, this car was
Yes.
great to drive. Here's the problem. Good luck finding anybody who can work on these cars, number one. And
Yeah.
number two, you're being a little modest when you said they had a problem with oil leaking. They had problems with their engines blowing up, Stefan,
Well, okay,
and they
just
still do.
yeah, I know. It's just I love that car. Maybe could drop a small block Ford in there, and then you'd have a really cool. I'm sure somebody's done that.
I
All
don't
right,
think
now
anyone's
here's
going to collect. I don't think people are going to collect it because you can't really drive it. You have to park it and look at it. But I would. I don't
yeah,
think people are going to collect it because there's no way you can get parts, and no way you're
yeah.
going to get someone to fix it.
All right, so here's my number two. All right, here it is. Oh yeah,
Wow.
1975 Chevy Cosworth Vega. Okay, so the Vega, listeners, was a fantastic two-door coupe that Chevy came out. The problem was it rusted
What?
overnight in your parking lot. I mean, in your driveway. This car, horrible rust. They had an aluminum block on this motor that warped. They
Warped.
leaked. Oh, it was awful. They leaked. It was the worst motor ever. So they put the worst motor ever in a great looking car, a good sized car, with a body that just completely fell apart. But to try to kind of revive, they built, actually, John DeLorean said, guys, I want a motor in this car. We're going to make something special. And they did the Cosworth Vega. It cost twice the price of a normal
Right.
Vega, was about $600 less than a Corvette. Go figure that. It was a total skunkworks project, but this is a 2-liter motor that put out 200 horsepower at the time with fuel injection. I mean, this thing was a hot little car, but but there's so much bad stuff. I had a Vega, my brother and I, doctor, family friend gave us his Vega, and I had another friend at a Vega who actually stole a salad bowl from the cafeteria in college so he could put the salad bowl underneath his Vega at night, and then in the morning he'd
Oh,
pull it back out and pour the oil back in.
wow.
Yeah, that was John Hill. I had a piss yellow Vegas station wagon, two-door station wagon with the fake woody siding. And fortunately, the woody siding was the only thing that held the body panels together.
This
But
is I disagree with this one too, and
yeah, I
not
knew
because
you
I don't
would.
like it. I do think the Codsworth Vegas is a pretty good car. It marks an era, so I think it's okay. But to say it's underappreciated, it's that's like saying, you underappreciate something that breaks all the time. And it's like, no, I just didn't appreciate it. I didn't underappreciate it. I appreciated it appropriately. So, and that,
I know that was a stretch, but I was just I could have put in a Mustang too.
well,
Can't go broke.
again, this is nostalgia, but here's the problem. GM had been the most powerful, most valuable corporation in the world. And they hit the 70s and they just pissed it all away with crappy products that were built very poorly. And the Vega should have been a success, but they just put a crappy interior into it. And yes,
Yep.
they used steel that rusted. And then they didn't test the engine, and the engine just broke down and broke down. People would pay money for this, and they would be so disappointed. GM certainly should have done better. And that was maybe the Vega is the first sign that GM was dying. Honestly, it's like Apple coming out with an iPhone that can only last 2 hours without a charge and has glitchy software, and the speakerphone doesn't work. And you try to log on and you'll be doing a video, maybe a Zoom call, and it will inexplicably turn the phone off in the middle. That's what it's like. You would never expect that from
It was
Apple.
a total okay. It
You
was a
wouldn't
total
expect
piece
that
of
from
shit. It was
GM.
a total piece of shit. I get. I mean, I take it, but just check out those mini lights on there. I mean, all right. So let me go to my
All right.
All right, here's my next one, and I think you're not going to be suspecting this at all. So, I lived in O'Fallon, Illinois, and across the street, this is probably for me seventh grade, and Glenn Weissman lived across the street. His wife, his mother was Nancy Schubert because she took the name of her husband, but she pulled up in one of these. This is a 1963 Studebaker Avanti. Okay, I see Steve-0 just rolling his eyes again. Let me tell you what, when this car pulled up in our neighborhood, I was like, oh my God, what is that car? So this was marketed as Studebaker is dying. This is their last hurrah. They designed and built this car in about 40 days. But they designed it as and marketed as America's only four-passenger high-performance personal car. They broke 29 speed records at Bonneville. It had a 289 V8 in it, and you could get one with the optional supercharger. I mean, look at this exterior, Steve-0. I know you're going to be like this. I think this car looks amazing. I think it's timeless. And then the interior of this car was really so far advanced for an American car. This looked like a European car in America. I love it. Here we go.
This was maybe the best choice on the list. I completely agree with everything you just said. This car is beautiful. It was beautifully styled at the time. It reflects the times, and it did not have quality problems or quality complaints. This ended up being a very, very good car. Just like Packard, the Studebaker died in the 50s because they got bypassed by everybody else, not because they built crappy cars. People just moved on.
Yes.
No,
I love
this
this.
was a great choice.
Even today, I love this car. And in the picture here, if you're just listening, this is a gorgeous aquamarine or Ipanema blue, and it just fits this car with the white walls. I never really liked the headlights in the front end of this car a whole lot. I think there could be, I wish Adams was on today to give a little more styling cues, but it's totally reflective of the 60s era. Every car had round headlights, and they had to find a way to put them into the car in some way. And they kind of added a square box around these. Kind of, very cool. All
It was
right.
very provocative to not have a grill. It's kind of like Tesla
Yes.
today. And I think it was very forward looking to not have a grill. I think that's a great choice. So,
All right.
I'll give you mine. We already did
All
the
right, hold on.
Scirocco.
Let me get yours teed up, Steve-0.
Yeah. We already did the Scirocco, so we can skip that.
Okay.
But
I think I got it right here. Here we go.
The 1966 Oldsmobile Tornado, and not because it was front wheel drive. I think it's cool that it was front wheel drive, but it was not the first front wheel drive car. And I think it almost doesn't matter that it was front wheel drive. It just was a beautiful, beautiful car. I think it was understated. It reflected the times, the 1960s, Mad Men, and the industrial might of the United States was at its absolute apex. Oil, steel, railroads, automotive. And this just reflects that confidence, understated, restrained confidence. And I think
I
it's
totally remember this car because a friend of my dad's, Dick Pinkerton, had this car. You know what I remember as a kid riding in the back?
What?
There's no hump.
Oh, that's right.
The
Of
back
course.
floor was flat. And I'm like, how cool is that? Because you weren't fighting with your brother or your friend on the other side as to whoever got in the middle. You had a flat floor, and that was like the coolest thing ever. I remember this car. I love this car. The only thing, could you imagine what this car would be like 75% of its size? It would be unbelievable. It's just, I love this car, but it's just too big. It's too much. But I think a 75% size this, would be just a phenomenal vehicle.
Yeah, I agree. It's beautiful. Next is the 1970 Monte Carlo.
Oh, absolutely.
All the manufacturers decided correctly. Demography is destiny, Stephan. I don't think there's any more true statement in humanity. And there was the baby boomers born in the late 40s, mid to late 40s, and in the 60s they were teenagers and they got muscle cars. Well, GM said, they're going to grow up, and let's give them personal luxury cars. Of course, their parents and big brothers wanted them too, and women liked driving these. They were coupes, but they were stylish. I love these personal luxury cars, and I think this was the best one.
Do you know, Steve-0, which company Was it the Monte Carlo, the Grand Prix, the Cordoba? Who started this large two-door coupe trend that just took the Oldsmobile Cutlass? It completely took over the automotive industry in the mid 70s.
Yeah, I think it was this car.
Okay, that car. Yep.
Yeah,
We had a Cordoba, and my buddy Jimbo had a Cutlass. I love these cars.
yeah, you think of a Dodge Challenger or the
Yep.
larger Ford Mustang, they were too sporty. This was not really sporty. It just was
Right.
luxurious, and it was beautiful. And of course, the name Monte Carlo is very inspired. So
Yes. Very cool.
I thought
Good
that
pick.
was, yeah.
Good
What
pick.
I wrote does, like muscle cars, these personal luxury cars in the early 70s, at least late 60s, it was an era of U.S. automotive strength. This was the last gasp of that U.S. automotive strength. Um,
Absolutely.
and then we moved on, just going chronologically here. We emerged and we went into the era of Japanese and German cars. And the 1984 Honda Civic CRX. So it got great fuel efficiency, had the wonderful CVCC, famous CVCC engine, very efficient. And it was fun to drive. It was fuel efficient. It was cool. I love this car.
I love the car too then, but I don't think it's going to be appreciated now and in the next 20 years.
Well, obviously, speak for yourself. You know what was cool? I'll just say this. In 1984, Honda was just starting to emerge. They had recently,
They were killing it.
yeah, had recently added the Accord to the Civic, but they made a big statement in 1984. They had one Civic before that. Now, granted, they had a sedan, they had a hatchback, and then they had a sedan, they had a wagon. But in 1984, they came out with the CRX, the sedan, the coupe, and the wagon, four different ones. And it was just showing how strong they were, and they were strong. And then last, you're going to love this, the
Oh, geez.
1993 Renault Twingo. It's cute, it's city friendly, it's fuel efficient. And did I say cute? Did I mention it was cute? This is cute. It's awesome.
I was surprised by this. I mean, I'm kind of, I don't know what to say because it never came to America. The Twingo really kind of re-revolutionized the Renault R5, the Peugeot 205, all those cars that predated it, the classic European two-door family box with some seats in the back, tiny hatchback in the back. But yeah, well, I'm surprised you didn't put the Fiat Panda up there as well. But yeah, interesting pick. I don't think it'll be appreciated in 20 years from now. Not like a Volkswagen Beetle, not like a Dishabo, not like a Rabbit or a Golf. I don't know. It was utilitarian. Yes, it is a good looking car, but maybe there's a couple models of this that will be appreciated.
I saw one on my recent trip to Europe, and it was so cute. You just want to give it a big hug, and to me, it reflects the era of the late '80s, early '90s. But I think it's going to be revered. And the Fiat Panda, yeah, it served the same purpose, but it wasn't cute.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go through quickly.
All right.
And we're not going to have time for our corresponding, but I'm going to go through quickly because
All
I
right,
want to
let
get
me.
your response.
Okay.
Some of these I thought were stupid and they irritated
Tell the. Oh,
me.
here. So. Oh yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
These irritated me. We don't need pictures. These are mostly, what they are, but you can respond because these did not belong on any list. Datsun Roadster, the 2000 from the late 60s. There's nothing memorable about that. It was completely overshadowed by the 240Z.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that was a stupid pick. It wasn't appreciated then. It's not appreciated now. It's certainly not going to be appreciated in a long time. The Studebaker Lark, to me,
I
it
don't know what the
wasn't
hell
as
that was. Yeah. I
it
mean.
wasn't as interesting as I don't know what the Avanti belonged on there. The Lark,
Yes.
like what? It's just a convertible or a coupe, and
Yeah.
what? No one's gonna care. No one cares about it now. No one cared about it 20 years ago. That was just if you're 75 and your neighbor had one, you're like, oh, I'm so glad they put that in there. That's the only reason it's there, not because it's underappreciated. I put the 1965 Chevrolet Corvair, which they picked. I said it's too small, it's too weird. Just no.
Just
And
no. I agree. Yep.
what?
All right.
What? Why? Why? What's so cool about it? And here's one that really irritated me because it's our year, the 1997 Plymouth Prowler. It's completely and totally irrelevant and stupid, is what I wrote
Let me
down.
find it here. Yeah,
And
everybody knows what the Prowler is.
it was stupid at the time. It's stupid now. I don't think anyone's going to really appreciate it. And it's a wannabe hot rod that's not a hot rod. It has a V6. It's underpowered. It's just stupid.
The Prowler when it came out, I understand what Chrysler was headed for, what they wanted to do with the Plymouth. But when it came out, you're like everybody the minute it came out was like V6, forget it. Just
Yeah.
forget it. It was an insult. The V6 was a total insult
By the way,
to
so
the
was automatic
homage
only.
of, huh?
So was automatic only.
Yeah. As a complete insult to what anybody wanted out of that vehicle. It was ridiculous.
Should have been a V8 and a
Stupid.
manual.
Yep.
All right, here's one that just pissed me off. 2004 Saturn Ion Redline. Oh, come on.
Who
What?
did? Yeah.
It's a Chevy Cobalt with a different body, and it had a little bit more power. It had all the quality problems of the Saturn Ion.
Next. All right. I'm already bored. Next.
What is it? What is that doing on this list?
It doesn't belong on the list. This is an AI list. Clearly.
Yeah, that's right. At
It's
the
an
Infinity
AI list. Yeah.
if you scroll up, the 2003 Infinity FX45.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, come on.
Come on. Yeah.
It's a sedan that they took their G35 sedan and they kind of beefed it up and they gave it all-wheel drive and they made it look like a little SUV. It didn't
But
sell
they did drop a
well.
big ass motor in it, which made no sense.
And then here we go, 2010 Acura ZDX. It was detested when it came out. It's detested now. It was completely stupid then, and it looks stupid now. And it actually looks better now than it used to, 2010, because now we've got the BMW X6 and the GLE Coupe by Mercedes. But this car was it was a four-door. It was an MDX with minus utility. They made a flat, like a fastback, but it's an Acura MDX, same drive time, same engine.
Was that the Honda Cross Tour?
Well, the Crosser was the same. I think it's the same platform, same
platform.
idea.
Same idea. It just looks awful. It's like, what is it? What is it supposed to be?
Yeah. So those are the ones. They were so stupid.
Right,
I'm like, this has to be AI.
I agree.
All right. So you give us 3 cars from now that will be appreciated a lot in, let's say, 50 years, 20 years, whatever. Give us 3, Stephan.
All right. So here we go. My 3 cars from 2024 available that will be appreciated 40 years from now. We're talking ice baby. Okay. It is anything with a big ass V8 engine. What we've seen in 2024 is all the governments around the world were just shoving battery evangelicalism down the consumer's throat. Consumers revolted, the manufacturers revolted. Now they're all pushing back to 2030, 2035 for having conversion to total BV platforms. So I think the jewels of this era are going to be anything that's a big ICE engine. So
yes,
2020,
completely agree.
Internal combustion engine. We look back to 2024. What are going to be the cars that people want 4 years from now? It's the car companies that had the balls to say, F you. No. We're still going to pump out something with a big ass engine. Okay. So
yes,
Ford Mustang Dark Horse, all about it. The Ford GTD, that's a high-end vehicle. It's not really 2024 yet. Next, Chevy Corvette ZR1. Absolutely. Another just fantastic, great, big monster V8. And then, of course, we have to talk about, Dodge going out finally in 2024. They're converting to all electric, but the Dodge Challenger last call Demon 170, over 1,000 horsepower out of an ICE engine that you can buy off the showroom floor. Just pure insanity. The car I did not include in there, which I think is the Bentley Continental GT Speed First Edition. I love coupes. Bentley is still going to do with the Continental GT is sticking with pure internal combustion engine. So for me, 2024, looking forward 40 years from now, the only thing people are they're not going to know about the Lucids and the Tesla Plaid Model S, whatever it is. It's going to be these cars with the last hurrahs to internal combustion engines. But I think with the backlash we've seen from manufacturers that they're not going to be able to meet the quota that the governments are backing off, the internal combustion engine is going to move further forward. I'm going to make a big prediction here that the next Mercedes-Benz AMG 63 is going to be a V8 again.
Yeah,
It's,
I think you're
they're not.
absolutely right.
They've gotten so much shit about that C63 with a 4-cylinder turbo, this hybrid, this and that. That the next 63 tagged AMG is going to have a V8 in again. I think
Yeah.
Mercedes is going to back off and go back as well.
Yeah, those cars are great choices. I can absolutely imagine in 50 years, I can completely imagine in 50 years, or at least 80 years, maybe a Demon, a Dodge Challenger Demon, and a Ford Mustang, maybe even just a 5.0 Mustang, but probably the GTD
Yeah.
parked on the lawn at Pebble Beach.
Yes, absolutely.
Because they're going to be revered and everyone's going to be like, wow, internal combustion engine. They used to put gasoline in there, petroleum, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And people will love it. Just like a good steam engine we like now. And I think those are great choices. Yep. I kind of went down the same path. I really think that the internal combustion engine cars are going to be appreciated much more. No one's going to care in 50 years about a Lucid Air. No
Absolutely
one's going to care about any
about
of the
a
Teslas.
Fisker. Nope. No one's going to care about them.
No one's going to care. I put Audi RS6.
Oh, dude, what does it mean? So
it's a V8.
This is an RS6 is the Audi just nuclear holocaust on wheels, internal combustion engine station wagon. It's just so insane.
It's loud. It's completely over the top. It's obnoxious. It's just got lots and lots of swagger. So I think this is going to be one.
This car's just it's just there's nothing. Yeah. I mean, a nasty station wagon. This thing is just nasty all around it. It sounds nasty. You see this thing in the rearview mirror, you're getting out of the way.
Yeah.
And then it's going to blow by you, just screaming, probably flames coming out the exhaust. I love these cars. I just think they have, like you said, Steve-0, they have so much swag.
Speaking of swagger, number 2, the Ford F-150 Raptor.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hells yeah. And again, we're in the same, it's the same thing. Internal combustion, loud, obnoxious, lots of power, lots of swagger. And then I put a little bit of a change of pace, and that is the Miata. The Miata was so great for so long. I think this is going to be an absolute classic in 50 years.
Yes. Yep, I think you're right. So we all have this nostalgia for cruising around in a convertible. There's a lot of British nostalgia about cruising around in a British convertible, the old Jag days. And, Miata made the perfect English 2-door convertible. In the Miata, it's the perfect MGB, TR6, TR7, TR4 that you may have heard about. They're right-sized. They're economical. They're an absolute blast. Your partner, Jeff Bank, has one. I have one. Amazingly, I don't think Adams has never owned one. That's one of the few cars that and the Studebaker Avanti are probably 2 cars he's never owned.
Well, I think you should buy a Miata, not a Studebaker Avanti, but yeah, they're great. Before we say goodbye, I was thinking about this a couple days ago, and I'll just mention it because I know this is one of those lines from advertising that you love. But one of the first ads for the first generation Miata, it said, "Before life hits you in the knees with a pair of grocery bags." And that's it. Before life hits you in the knees with grocery bags, because that's what happens in diapers.
Yes.
Before that, take this. Or when the kids leave the house, take this. You can't go wrong with a Miata. I forgot just how great it was until I drove Jeff's again. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's sublime.
Well, the thing I tell people every day, I had a Cobra, I sold it. I got the Miata. I've got a Mustang Bullet that I love. But the Miata is, first of all, and all the European journalists will talk about this, that what makes the Alpine A110 great is lightness. it doesn't matter how much horsepower you put in a car or what the engineer does to take out to try to make it not feel like it weighs 4,000 pounds, 5,000 pounds, 6,000 pounds. It's a heavy car. You get in a car that is appropriately powered, that is light. I mean, are go-karts not the greatest thing you've ever driven? So the lighter the vehicle is, the more fun it is, the more you are connected to the road, the greater the experience, the bigger the smile. Yeah, I love my Mustang. It hauls ass, and it's got a shit ton of power. The Miata doesn't have a lot of power, but it is so light, it's so tossable. You feel connected, and the lighter the car, the more enjoyable the experience.
I think the only reason I don't have one is I don't really fit in it. I'm 6'2", and
Yeah.
I really don't fit. That's how good it is, though. It is so, so great. If it fit, I'm sure I'd have one.
Yeah, it's a fantastic car. Done
All
well.
right, well, close this out. We're out of time.
All right, dude. Thanks very much. Thanks for y'all that have hung with us as we've gone to this intermittent schedule, but we'll continue to do these intermittently. Hopefully, Adams will be back with the next one. So remember, if like, listen, subscribe, and if you do subscribe to whatever platform you're on, when we do post a new video or a new podcast, you'll automatically be notified that it's there. So you don't have to keep looking for a new one. So please do that, and we'll catch you next time around.
Yeah, and I'm going to speak for our listeners. For all your years of service to the military, thank you, Colonel Dr. Stephan Moran.
Hey, thank you.